All right, hello everyone. So today, something new. We're going to be reviewing, not really reviewing, but taking a look at the system Foundlings by Giles Pritchard and art by Sela. Foundlings, this drowned place we once called home. Designed and written by Giles Pritchard. Art by Tom Sela Favier, or Faber. And we got our table of contents here. I mean, really, I picked this up at my FLGS mostly because of the cover. I had never heard of this before and decided it seems cool. It seems moody as hell. I like these deep blues and teals. So I think I don't know how much I paid for this, but it wasn't much. I figured, what the hell? We'll take a peek at it. Yeah, table of contents here. We're going to do like, sort of just like a flip through. So we can start here. Foundlings. Verdant and bright, the world was full of life, and the city grew. What a city it grew to be. A vast and sprawling network of tree houses built within the forest they called home. Bridges braided of strong hemp rope. Walkways weaving through the underbrush and shallow drafted boats wending winding streams joined this city together. The city was long in the building and careful. A gentle balance maintained, taking and giving back in equal measure. It was understood that the forest that maintained them also needed them to maintain it. Silently growing through long years of peace, a disease slowly spread. A poisonous hunger, insatiable, burned in those afflicted, filled their once gentle hearts with a desire for more, when more was never enough. Their hunger brought them power, wealth, and influence, but the poison in them fed on such things. The more they gained, the more they hungered. Ravaging the world for their profit, plundering the creatures they lived alongside, corrupting and debasing the society that harbored them, they grew into contemptuous monsters, swollen and disgusting. An avarice for opulence led this polluted society to poison the sky, cut down the trees, and dig up the earth. No story recounts in which deep cut into the earth a nameless, toiling creature dug up the stone, the heart of the forest. The stories only speak of the war that came after. To possess this singular thing, this stone unlike any other, that was dry fuel for the fires of greed. Not one of the corrupted hearts could bear the thought of any other claiming ownership over the stone. Yet all sought it for themselves. The war was savage and brutal, and the stone itself was shattered by it. Fires ravaged, floods swept, winds scoured, and the forest was changed forever. It has taken generations to scrape out enough of life on the fringes of this changed forest so that now eyes can turn and look at what was wrought. Foul-flooded and spirit-stalked, the city reaches out of polluted waters into a burned sky. Here, legend says, the stone fragments may be found. Here, perhaps, there is hope that if they can be reunited, the stricken earth can be healed and not perish into darkness for all time. Alright, so kind of like an eco RPG. Who are the Foundlings? They're survivors who have managed to eke out a living on the fringes of the polluted forest their forebears once called home. They live in a diaspora and come in all shapes and sizes. The settlements to which they belong are as equally varied. Some are ruthless survivalists, but most seek to live considerate lives. Ruins of their ancestral home. The city played an essential role in their survival as they scavenged what they could despite the dangers. So they're repairing and remaking everything. Only now that the Foundlings have managed to scrape together a patchwork of settlements and villages have some started to look to the home of their forebears for more than salvage, and wonder if something can be done to heal the wound. What do you need to play? Group of 2 to 4 players and 1 GM. 5 or 6 work as well. Foundlings use 10-sided die. So this is a D10 dice pool system, which I'm not super familiar with. And I made a post on YouTube last night about waiting for a set of like a couple different sets of similar or of same colored D10s, because you need at least 4 to 6 D10 in 3 different colors or distinct designs, which I do not have. So that's my only beef with this game so far. It seems very cool, but I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe I just don't have as much dice as the average RPG nerd, but I mean, I got 5 sets of chess over here. They're all different colors. Having 4 to 6 in the same, like having 4 to 6 of 3 colors, that feels like a lot of D10s. So I ordered some. They didn't get here. I just said, screw it. We're going to go anyways. Copies of the character sheet. Bam. Some pencils. Skirt. Erasers. Skirt. Snacks. Nah. Beverage. Diet Coke. Free time. Got it. Alright. Let's get in this. So, rules and fundamentals. Whenever a foundling wants to undertake some task or action in which success or failure is risky, dangerous, or will add something interesting to the story, they roll a check. The result of the check will dictate whether or not the foundling is successful, and whether there is some extra benefit or complication. All checks involve the players rolling a pool of dice. This pool is made up of 3 types of D10, distinguished by their color and or design. More often than not, a player will roll a pool made up of 4 attitude dice, a mix of focus and fire dice. That'll make sense here in a second. And a number of difficulty dice. That's directed by the GM, reflecting how hard it is to accomplish the action. After rolling the dice pool, the player checks to see what type of die achieved the highest result, following the descriptions below. So, focus die are positive. I kind of just followed this sort of outline here. So I've got, see, this is the thing. I've got my 10s and my 1s, which you can use. So I have 2, but it says you need 4 to 6. And I don't think you need 6 of the focus die, because max you could only have 4 focus die. And I'm pretty sure, and then it says you need fire dice, which are positive, and I'll explain that here in a second, which I only had 2 of these. So maybe I'll just have to yeah, see, that's so annoying. All right. We're going to work through it anyways. Okay. So we've got 2 of these. If I have to, I'll just re-roll another one. And then difficulty dice. I have this guy here. Wait, where's my other? I should have had another D10. See? Yeah, there's so much going on here. Ugh. There we go. I've got those. And difficulty die, I did see that goes up to 5. So I've got a couple more over here we can choose from. They have colors on them. That's annoying. And I figured for focus die, I could use these. They're like gold, Seems positive. So I've got those as well. But yeah, you've got your focus die, your fire die, and your difficulty die. So, set those to the side. And now we can go through this. Focus die are positive. If the highest die in a pool is a focus die, the foundling succeeds, and there is a positive twist called an edge. See that on page 20. A focus die will be a fire or difficulty die result of the same number. It wins all ties. The let's see if you can see this. The character sheet has a nice little thing down here. Rule summary: if a focus wins, success plus edge; fire, success plus hitch; difficulty, fail. And then it has the draws too. So a focus die will win over the fire and the difficulty in all ties. The difficulty will lose to a focus in a tie, but win over a fire and the fire loses all ties. Okay, so fire dice are positive. If the highest die in a pool is a fire die, the foundling succeeds, but there's a complication called a hitch. Also see page 20. A fire die will be beaten by a focus or difficulty die resolved to the same number. It loses all ties. So difficulty dice are negative and represent how hard an action is to complete successfully. The harder or more complicated the action, the more difficulty dice. See pages 18 and 19. If the highest die in a pool is a difficulty die, the foundling fails. A difficulty die will be beaten by a focus die result and will beat a fire die result of the same number. It loses ties with focus and wins ties with fire. Having a greater number of focus die in your pool means a foundling is more likely to succeed with an edge. Having a greater number of fire dice means they are more likely to succeed with a hitch. Which I like that. I feel like given minimal difficulty, foundlings are most likely to succeed. So I think it's like 2 is like, from what I've read, is like a standard difficulty. But, I mean, that's 2 dice out of potentially, 1 focus, 3 fire, 3 focus, 1 fire. So, kind of works. Let's see here. Creating a settlement, which we can do. I think this is the settlement sheet right here. So we're going to go through this. And this should be visible. Make sure. Okay. So maybe a player's foundling was born there, and their roots run deep. Maybe a player's foundling is newly arrived, and they're seeking to prove their worth. Whatever a foundling's backstory, all the foundlings the players create call the settlement home. It's initially defined by another number of sentences together, which give an impression of what the place is like. Foundlings are called to embark on, as well as provide a context when the players create their foundlings. Oh, wait, sorry. Sorry, I didn't read that. These sentences may, of course, be used to inspire ideas for some of the adventures the foundlings are called to embark on. Creating a settlement should be a collaborative process. It won't be in this situation, because it's just me and you. They can change and evolve over time. The sentences that are rolled or picked from the following list are generally true for the settlement over the last year. So something that makes our settlement unique. Let's roll on this. So we need a D10, a 7. Known far and wide for joyous festivals. We'll say renowned for joyous festivals. Oop. Oh, okay. There we go. Even in hard times, our settlement usually has enough. And it looks like we roll twice on this. Roll or pick 2 different results. Okay. A 10. Friendship. Our culture of warm hospitality. So we can do friendship. Hospitality. Let's do one more. A 4. Stories. Okay. Even in times of plenty, our settlement often lacks. Let's find out. 8. Cloth. Ooh, okay. All right. Okay, so we would be going out for cloth. That would be something that we would need to focus on for clothes and awnings both. So we need to come up with a settlement name. What should it be called? Friendship, hospitality, stories. Often lacks. Does it lack? Does it lack cloth because it's used so frequently? We could do. Yeah, we'll say that they lack it because they use it so much, but that would kind of mean that they have a lot of it. Friendship, stories. Okay, I got it. So I think hospitality, hearth. I think a hearth typically made up of kind of flagstones. I like the idea of our settlement being named Flagstone. Okay. So, almost all foundlings now live nestled against the coastline of the drowned forest. The lands behind the settlements, away from the drowned forest and coastline, are variously referred to as the desolate lands, the bleak, and other equally dreary sobriquets. Life away from the shores, is harsh and dangerous, and while some foundlings do live in this foreboding environment, they are usually small bands who survive by raiding the settlements of the shores. Surviving on the shores of the drowned forest is not easy, caught between the corruption and tragedy of the city the foundlings once called home before them, and the desolate lands behind them. A hard-earned life sits in the balance. With life tenaciously holding on along the coast, a settlement typically sits between two neighbors. These neighbors are loosely defined at the beginning of a new game, but are likely to be the places the settlement that foundling characters interact with most beyond their own community. Both a settlement's neighbors are defined by 3 characteristics. Players should share the responsibility of rolling a d10 for each. I'm going to share that responsibility with myself. Neighbor name. Well, let's actually do the relationships first. And a locus is like something that attention is given to. Just in case you didn't know. So, relationship with the first one. A 1. Friendly. Awesome. Proximity. 8. Distant. We'll say 2+ days. And their locus is a 9. Expand. In this changed world, power is for those willing to take it. But they are friendly with us. So maybe that's expansion of lands inhabited by, let's say, like bands of violent foundlings or creatures. Maybe. We'll see. Or it could be uninhabited lands. I guess taking power doesn't necessarily mean it's taking it from someone. It could be just taking it because it exists. So neighbor name, let's do... they're 2 days away. What about... What about Timber Cove? We'll say they're still on the coast, but they're just days away. All right, let's do the next one. All right, relationship. An 8. Uh-oh. Hostile. Okay, proximity. A 3. Ooh. Close. Half day. Yikes. And they're locusts. What if it's just giving stuff to their neighbors? That's a 5. Survive. Focused almost solely on the struggles of day-to-day life. Okay. So survive. Neighbor name. I'm going to go with hard shell. There we go. Cool. So we got that. Let's create our foundling. Cool. I like that. So we've got that. I'll set that over here for now. While all creatures who live on the coast of the drowned forest are called foundlings, the characters created by the players are special. Whether young, middle-aged, or older, they are explorers setting out for reasons of their own and or on behalf of their settlement to change their world. Foundlings are defined by their path, the dice they roll for the different attitudes, their ability to enchant, their values, their abilities, and their equipment. What is your foundling called? I kind of want to do the name last. So we're going to look at the path. A path is like a character archetype. It gives sense to what a particular character sees as their main role. It's not set in stone, but a guide. The attitudes listed for each path do not need to be the ones your character focuses on, but represent the attitudes generally important to foundlings that follow the path. A path will also provide access to abilities during character creation. Once the game begins, however, a character may learn any ability from any path. So, there are 4 paths. Keeper, it's like a guardian, warrior, sort of a tank. They're usually adept at fighting and are most likely to be armed and armored. Attitudes for a keeper: power, guile, and speed. A keeper may select one of the keeper abilities, see page 15. Keeper typically holds one or more of these values: courageous, guardian, honorable, just, loyal, tough. Mystics are enchanters, which is an enchanter, a witch, a sorcerer. They're usually adept at using enchantments, which is this game's magic system, to manipulate the world around them. Attitudes for mystics: power, reason, and charm. Mystic typically holds these values, one or more of these: compassionate, curious, empathetic, honest, loving, merciful. Pathfinder is like a scout, explorer, hunter, thief. They're usually adept at observing the world around them, interacting with the natural world. They focus on caution, guile, and speed, and their values are bold, caretaker, compassionate, curious, insightful, temperate. Scavengers are tinkers, a mender, and a finder. They are usually adept at seeking out the bits and pieces they need to make useful items. Attitudes are caution, reason, and charm, and they hold these values: determined, insightful, loyal, pragmatic, rational, thrifty. There's 4 of them, and this is character creation, so we're just going to roll a 1d4, except we're going to use a d8 because I hate the d4, the pyramid. So we got an 8, so that is a 4. We are a scavenger. Awesome. Settlement. What are we? Flagstone. History. What is the backstory of the character? Did they grow up in the settlement, or are they a new arrival? What major events or experiences in their life set their feet on the path they currently follow? We say we're new to Flagstone. Spent childhood engineering new play toys at the orphanage. Is it orphanage? Orphanage. Where they grew up. Alright, the image. I don't have one yet. That'll be for later. From gentle caretakers of a city living in balance with its environment to voracious consumers whose reckless greed drowned and destroyed their own home. From broken refugees fleeing the consequences of their hubris to survivors, foundlings living on the shores of past mistakes. The foundlings have walked a long and varied path. Some keep their eyes on the ground, one foot in front of the other, one day at a time. Others look up with hope in their hearts, seeking to learn from the past with the dream of shaping a better tomorrow. Attitudes. Oh wait, what are mine? Important to path, or to scavenger, caution, reason, and charm. So we'll go over these, and then there's kind of rules for how you go about it. Attitudes. In Foundlings, character actions are not tied to specific skills. What is important is how a character approaches the task they are attempting. A player describes how their character is going to achieve their goal, and this informs which attitude is used for the check. The attitudes are caution, going slowly and deliberately, careful, calculated. Charm, being bold and flamboyant, convincing and disarming. Guile, being secretive and deceptive, cunning and tricky. Power, using strength and might, being forceful and decisive. Reason, being calculated and rational. Logical and thoughtful. Speed, going quickly and decisively, being fast and acting rapidly. So ours are caution, reason, and charm. Boop, boop, boop. Makes sense. When making a check, a player will roll 4d10 for the attitude being used and a number of difficulty dice as indicated by the GM. The colored symbols for the attitude being used indicates the number of focus die. The uncolored symbols indicate the number of fire dice. The rules for attitudes and checks are explained in more detail on pages 17 to 20. Every character starts with one focus die in each of the attitudes. Okay, so let's color some of these in. Fun. I like this. I like this. Alright, one more time. I think ours is caution, reason, and charm. To indicate this, color the leftmost die symbol in for each attitude on the character sheet. In addition to each attitude, beginning with one focus die, a player has 5 further dice to allocate to their attitudes, with the following restrictions. A player may allocate focus die to any attitude. A character may not start the game with more than 3 focus die. So that's what I mean by, if you only put 1 in, you only need 1 focus die, and you need 3. So you really only need 3, at least to start, 3 of focus and fire. The difficulty ones you can have a bunch of. So a player may opt to spend 2 of the dice, 2 of the 5 on enchant powers, which are down here, where if you choose to do that, 1 die becomes 2 dice. So you can spend 2 of your 5. So let's say I do 2 caution, another reason, and another charm. I have 1 die left, which means I can use that to color in 2 of these die with an enchant, because the conversion is 1 attitude die equals 2 enchant die, and they can be 2 of 1 or 1 of each, or 1 of 2. No, what am I saying? I can do 2 bind, or I can do bind and call, whatever other combinations. These die may be spent on the 1 power, or spread between multiple powers as the player sees fit, with the same restrictions outlined for attitudes above. If a player decides to allocate 4 of their starting dice to add attitudes, this is the example, and the last 1 die to enchant powers, they may color 2 dice in enchant powers, These may be in the same or different powers. When coloring focus die on the character sheet, start with the leftmost symbol and move across one by one to the right. So in this example, a player has colored in the leftmost die their speed attribute and has decided they want their character to be fast thinking, fast acting, fast talking sort. They decide to allocate 2 of their 5, so they would color in the next consecutive 2. When the player makes a speed check, they will roll 3 focus die and 1 fire die, because they have 3 of those in and 1 uncolored. No more dice can be allocated. Okay. During character creation. So, I kind of think we're going to come back to this because I think it goes over... No, it doesn't. Let's look at the enchant. We're going to fast forward. Fuck it. No, we're not. Or fuck it, are we? How far away is the enchantments? They're pretty far away. So we're just going to go over this section really quickly, just because it's part of the point allocation. So enchantment is the magic system in Foundlings, and it's a verb-noun magic system. The verbs are listed on the character sheet: bind, call, move, scry, and sculpt, and are used like any of the attributes. The nouns, as well as the description of how the verb is being used to manipulate them, are provided by the player. I'm going to try and use move to lift my rope to the raised platform above us and tie it off on the railing. Okay? So enchant verbs. Bind protects a noun from enchantment. If a noun is bound, add 1 dice to the difficulty pool when trying to use an enchantment on it. Bind is also used if a character is resisting enchantment. Okay? Call reaches out to a noun. If successful, the character may hear a noise like a gentle call, a vision that gives them some clue as to location, or they may feel a force pulling them in the direction of the noun. Move applies a push or pull force to a noun. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Moving something of a small mass might be relatively easy. Moving something of a larger mass might push the character backwards, causing them to buckle at the knees or throw them off balance. Scry reveals some detail, fact, clue, or past experience of a noun. Scry can also be used to ask for permission from a noun, which makes using enchantments with that specific noun easier. Sculpt will shape, mold, change, or knit a noun. It may be used for healing, repairing, or making things. Okay, so we're going to go with sculpt. Enchantment is a descriptive magic system, and while the focus and fire die for the dice pool are listed on the character sheet, the difficulty of any enchantment should reflect the complexity of the action, the ease with which the noun can be manipulated, and the familiarity of the character with the noun as a general rule. Any enchantment starts off at an average difficulty level, which is a difficulty of 2, which means you would be adding 2 difficulty dice. So, let us swing back to this, and I think we are going to... there's like a thing that they value. So they go rules, attitudes, difficulty. Alright, going slowly. Reason being calculated. I think as a scavenger, I think our reasoning is going to be... We're going to do that, and then we'll do 1 charm, 1 caution, and I think we'll do 1 to scry and 1 to sculpt. Okay, because I feel like getting information, facts, details about a noun, which could be, an item, and then being able to change said item could be pretty helpful. So we're going to stick with that, and we'll move forward. Values. A character's values are a fundamental aspect of who they are. Over the course of gameplay, a character may develop new values and may lose values they once cherished. A value might be a short sentence, a question, or a single word. A character starts the game with 4 values. These are derived according to the following. 2 of a character's starting values relate to their settlement. They may be drawn directly from the things the settlement usually has plenty of, may be inspired by the things that the settlement usually lacks, or be related to the thing that makes the settlement unique. And for us, we are good to go on friendship, hospitality, and stories. We have joyous festivals, and we often lack cloth. So, one of these values will come from the list of values that relate to their path. The player should choose one that feels most appropriate or suggest one they believe fits the path. One of a character's starting values may be drawn from the character's backstory or the vision the player has for the character. So in this example, Talwyn is a foundling pathfinder from a settlement called Crystal Delve. When creating the settlement, the players learned that Crystal Delve is dug deep into salt mines above the water's edge. It usually has enough courage to venture beyond the comfortable and familiar. In stories, their past is rich and aspirations boundless. However, Crystal Delve often lacks medicines to cure the sick and heal the ailing. Talwyn's player decides that as a pathfinder, the courage to venture is fundamental. They decide the first value related to the settlement comes from this and writes it down. What's over the next hill? With a sense that Talwyn is someone who wants to do something to heal the world, and with their settlement rich in stories, the player decides that the second value related to Crystal Delve will be learn from the past. As a pathfinder, Talwyn is close to the natural world. Of the values linked to being a pathfinder, Talwyn's player chooses the value caretaker. Talwyn's player has one last value to decide on. Looking over everything they have worked out so far, they decide that the fourth and final value should be give back. Talwyn is a pathfinder from Crystal Delve, with the values of what's over the next hill, learn from the past, caretaker, and give back. Cool. So let's take a look real quick. Determined, insightful, loyal, pragmatic, thrifty. I think for sure, for our third one, which relates to our path, I think we're going to do thrifty. Thrifty? Thrifty or rational? Which one screams like... I think thrifty. Okay. May be drawn directly from the things a settlement usually has plenty of. Friendship, hospitality. I would say one of their things for hospitality and friendship, I think that Flagstone always has, if you need a place to stay, there's always a place for you. They will find a place for you to stay. So I think I want to say that one of their values could be offering what could it be? So maybe it's like I want to say like always have a home. Yeah, we'll do you'll always have a home here. Okay. And whether that's like specifically as a scavenger, them being able to construct makeshift homes, or like while they're there, before they've set out on these adventures, they're coming up with blueprints and plans to build like permanent structures. Housing specifically is a very, very important thing for these people in Flagstone. So what do we want to do for what our settlement lacks? Cloth to repair. Maybe one of their values is the importance of weaving, or like something about thread. I don't know. Learn from the past. So, and with friendship and hospitality, stories. Oh, their stories. Maybe their stories and like their cultures are like literally on tapestries, and they can only do these when they're able to acquire cloth. So maybe we'll do like, this is like a double sort of, it applies to cloth and stories. And we'll say worthy of a tapestry. And maybe that is like, oh my god, maybe that's like a call to adventure. They need to be invested in something that's worthy of a tapestry. So stories, they want to be able to have a story to offer. And the last one is a value that's drawn from the character's backstory. Ours is spent childhood engineering new play toys at the orphanage where they grew up. So we could do, let's see. What else? Yeah, I kind of like the idea of like them being like focused on enrichment. Yeah, enrichment. Okay. I like that. Okay. So, alright, we got our values. Gear and salvage. Where's that at? There. Oh yeah, I forgot there's a backside to this. Flagstone. Name. We still don't have a name. What should our name be? Should we just have one single name? No surname? What about... I like the name Wynn. W-Y-N-N. Okay. So... abilities. Okay, so gear... Let's do gear and salvage, because I think abilities is coming up. I don't know what turpitude is, but I'll have to look that word up. Gear tags. Tags. Interesting. Name. Win. XP unspent. XP total. So gear for a scavenger is salvage. One piece of each type of salvage. Oh, okay. So we have a grapple. We've got lockpicks. We've got rope. We got tools. One piece of each type of salvage. I gotta erase that. That looks terrible. And then, I don't know. What's salvage? Where do we find that? So wait, do we... Contacts? Do we... How many abilities do we take? Oh, a scavenger may select one of the scavenger abilities. See page 16. Okay. Contacts. The character has built up a network of contacts. Given half a day, they can find someone who has some useful information, that piece of equipment, or tag they want. The contact will always want something in exchange. Or in a pinch, when making or repairing a piece of gear, the character can substitute one tag for any one other tag of the same rarity. This might represent a clever repurposing or a trade or a swap. For example, using the tag smooth in place of the tag clever. They are both uncommon salvage. Deft hands. The character may take one strain to reduce the difficulty of a check to repair or make a piece of gear by 2. I don't know what strain is. A keen eye. The character spends an extra 10 minutes searching for salvage and may add +2 to any rolls for the rarity of the salvage they find. Or the character may suffer 1 turpitude to find one piece of salvage of their choice. I think I'm going to go with keen eye. I like that. I like the idea of that. I don't know what turpitude is, but I like that idea. So, rules. Okay, yeah, so this is kind of where it goes over the attitudes. Foundlings is designed to focus on not just what a character is doing, but how they are doing it. What a foundling is wanting to do is important. Whether they are picking a lock, climbing a rope, or leaping from one platform to another is a vital element that describes the goal of the foundling when undertaking an action. What is equally important is the how. How is the foundling going about their action? If a foundling is attempting to pick a lock, are they going slowly and carefully to avoid any possible trap, which would be caution, performing it as a trick with a wink and a flick of the wrist, that's charm. I like this. So you can technically do one thing 6 different ways. Obviously you can do it more than 6, but 6 different ways in the game's terms. Moving quietly and deliberately to avoid detection, guile, brute forcing the tumblers, power, working out the mechanisms, reason, or rushing to get it done as quickly as possible, speed. Attitudes are focused on the process of how a foundling is attempting to achieve their goal, with the outcomes and implications of each description adding possibilities to the narrative being created at the table. If a foundling is using guile, the chance of being overheard is reduced, even if they are ultimately unsuccessful if they are using power. The crunch as they break through the lock might be heard from a distance, even if they are successful. The driving force behind attitudes is to add description to the narrative of the game by shifting the emphasis from the goal to the process of achieving that goal. What this means for the GM and the players is in considering how the foundlings will act and what the consequences for those choices could be. Any character can get through the locked door, but each will be better able to achieve this in different ways when playing to their strengths. Yeah, that makes sense. The dice pool is described on page 3. Anytime a foundling wants to undertake an action for which the chance of failure could add something to the narrative, they'll roll their pool of d10s, and which is made up of their attitude dice, a mix of focus and fire, and depending on the character, and a number of difficulty dice decided by the GM or in the rules. Attitudes describe how a foundling is going about the task. We kind of figured that right here. Some attitudes are better suited to a task than others, and the GM and players are encouraged to suggest or describe how the choice of attitude will have an impact or consequence. Using power to smash the grating will create a lot of noise. Using reason might break the tool you are using on a hitch. Using caution will take a long time. Of course, there will be some occasions where a specific attitude is unsuitable to the goal a player wishes to achieve, and while the final arbiter of the rules is the GM, negotiation and collaborative decision making is fundamental. As stated above, it is important the players have choices. Okay. The attitude a player chooses to use will tell the player what focus and fire die are added to the dice pool. Using gear cleverly can provide 1 focus die. Ah, shit. Okay, so you could use more than 4, or more than 3. Difficulty dice represent how hard the action is. Smashing through the grating using power might be difficulty 4. It's a tough grating, but levering it with reason might be difficulty 3. It's old and the housing is rusted and broken. While the player is deciding which attitude to use, the GM decides and should be clear about the difficulty before any dice are rolled. Difficulty 1, simple. 2 average, 3 tough, 4 hard, 5 plus heroic. Sometimes the GM might require a check from a player to notice something, dodge something. In these instances, the GM should provide some context for the check. Something comes flying out of the darkness, and the player and GM should come to an agreement on which attitude the player will roll in reaction. So, yeah. Once the dice pool of focus, fire, and difficulty dice has been assembled, a player rolls and looks at the highest die. So, I think we should do an example of this. Okay, let's say we're using caution to sail one of our boats into less than ideal surroundings, like maybe into like enemy territory or something like that, or into like just like a dangerous environment, into the forest. Okay, so we have a caution, and let's say general difficulty is 2. So we'll use that. We have 2 focus die, and we have 2 fire die. So we roll all of these. So we roll 6 die. And then we go with the highest of whatever die it is. So let's roll all of these. Okay, we have a 9 here. We have 2 9s, but we have a 9 here. And we have a 6 here, so that doesn't count. So it's really these 2. And in this situation, a focus die wins out. A focus die wins out over a difficulty die. So it's a success and an edge. So let us read about the edges and hitches. Edges and hitches are twists in the story, some unexpected thing that happens as a result of an action. Edges are narrated by the players, while hitches are narrated by the GM. Oh. It is important to note that an edge or a hitch is not a closed door. It cannot undo the success of the action that caused it or overcome a challenge that would otherwise require a check. Edges and hitches represent some unintended benefit or complication that arises from the action. For example, an edge might include someone letting slip extra information. An edge might include accomplishing an action in a way such that it goes completely unnoticed. An edge might include completing an action with success that the character feels, an edge might include completing an action with such success that the character feels great and loses 1 strain. Cool. A hitch might include making noise and gaining undesired attention. A hitch might include getting the information you want but making the person you are speaking to overly suspicious, envious, or angry. A hitch might also include unlocking a door but breaking the lock. It cannot be locked again, and someone attempting to unlock or lock it will notice it has been broken recently. So in this example, we have an edge, and we're sailing through maybe a dangerous little, let's say it's like a river that winds through the drowned forest, and there's like a little encampment posted up like on the bank of the river, and they have some docks that are leading down out onto the river, and perhaps they were mid loading ships, are loading vessels, and they left to do something, and they left, like a canvas bag, like a canvas sack, lying on the dock, and Wynn is able to sail his vessel close enough to it to swipe it as he's going by. That could be the edge, or something that I might offer the GM as an option. But it does sound like an edge, as long as it's not insane, does get decided by the players, which is cool. A note on failure. It is often better to allow a story to continue rather than blocking it with an outright fail. Climbing the wall. Yeah, for example, climbing the wall took significantly longer than anticipated when time was of the essence, or the character was injured in the climb, or the player had to choose something to drop. Okay. The GM might offer success with a cost, but the player is the one who gets to decide whether they accept the cost or take the fail. So we have the enchantments. We went through these already. All enchantments generally start with a difficulty of level 2. A number of factors can add to or remove dice from this number. The difficulty of an enchantment basically boils down to if the character is familiar with the noun and it is a willing participant, the check should be relatively easy, a 2. If the character is unfamiliar with the noun, what they are trying to do is particularly complex, or the noun is unwilling, the check is more difficult, 3 through 5. The following list offers some suggestions. We'll go through a couple of these. If the noun is bound, does not apply if the character has permission. Add 1 difficulty die. Okay. Oh, yeah. Ooh, yeah, that's true, because binding protects them from enchantment. So it's like shell in Final Fantasy. If the noun is far away, add 1 difficulty die. If the noun itself is magical, add 1 to 3 difficulty dice depending on whether the magic is weak, strong, or powerful. Or according to the keyword, see adversary keywords on page 39. If the character is within reach of the noun, remove 1 difficulty die. So some good examples there. Here's my little bookmark. Combat. Initiative. When working out the order in which characters and the adversaries act is important. The GM can list a series of action slots equal to the number of characters and adversaries in the scene. Order characters and adversaries into these slots according to the number of focus die they have in speed. For adversaries, the number of difficulty dice in combat, highest to lowest. Wait a minute, what does that even mean? Oh, okay. Adversaries have a number of ratings that are important to combat. If there is a tie, characters are listed before adversaries. Okay, so in speed, if you have a 3 speed and you're up against an adversary that has a 3 in combat, the character would go first. It's not important to list the name of the characters in these slots, just which slots belong to the characters and which to adversaries. Players can decide as a group which character will act. Okay, so it's side-based initiative. You just get to decide who goes first. With each character and adversary acting once and taking an appropriate slot. Before moving on to the next, until all have acted. Once all have acted, a new round begins. Oh wait, so is it side-based? Oh, I don't think it is. I think it's literally... No, I think it's every other, depending. Let's say you have an adversary that has 2 combat, but you have 2 characters that have 3, and then 1 character that has... You have 2 characters with 3 in speed and 1 character with a 1. It would go those 2 characters with 3s in speed, then your adversary with a 2 in combat, then your player with a 1 in speed, and then a new round begins. Players can choose to have characters take different character slots each round. Maybe I'm fucking wrong. Let me read this again. It is not important to list the name of the characters in these slots. Highest to lowest. Oh, okay. So no. You still do that, but players can choose to swap around. Like for the new round, let's say the player with 1 speed has something they can do to assist maybe one of the players with 3 speed. They can switch slots just as long that the slots never change their order, but the characters which occupy those slots can be swapped from round to round. Okay. Range is an abstracted concept in Foundlings. There are 4 ranges: close, near, far, and distant. A character may use a free movement to change their range by 1, near to close, far to near, etc. Close is within arm's reach. These may be attacked using melee weapons if you are using a ranged weapon to fire at an adversary within close of a friend. Oh, okay. Add 1 to the difficulty die. Near is within easy moving distance across a room or close enough to talk to. A character may make a ranged attack against an adversary that is near, but may not engage them in close combat. Far means far enough away that shouting might be needed to communicate. That nuance of expression might be lost. A character may make a ranged attack against an adversary that is far, but they add 1 difficulty die to the pool. Distant is visible, but too far away to interact with reliably. Ranges are deliberately vague. On a foggy night or in winding tunnels, what is near or far is going to be different than on a clear day out in the open. If an adversary is making a ranged attack against a character, speed can be used to dodge against the adversary's combat rating. Oh, okay. Adversaries. Adversaries have a number of ratings that are important to combat. They have combat, toughness, damage, injury. Combat is the base number of difficulty die that will be added to the pool of any character fighting this adversary. Oh, okay. Toughness is the number of hits the adversary can take before they are defeated. Damage is the base damage level the adversary inflicts if they hit a character. Combat dice pool. Combat in Foundlings works in a similar way to rolling any other test, with a few added twists. Most weapons specify which attitude a character will use when attacking. Once a player has worked out what attitude they're rolling, they add a number of difficulty dice to the pool. The number of difficulty dice added is equal to the combat rating. Okay, that's rough. As well as any difficulty added due to range or other circumstances. If it is raining heavily or the footing is slippery or the character is outnumbered, the GM might add 1 or at most 2. Combat check. Once the dice pool for the check is assembled, the player rolls the dice. The player succeeds. They will inflict damage relative to their weapon, or if the target of a ranged attack, they will dodge. Okay. The adversary succeeds. They will inflict damage based on their damage rating, or if the target of a ranged attack, they will dodge. Okay. Gotcha. So it's just opposed. Is it opposed? Yeah, it is. Okay. Let's see. The weapon a character is using will indicate which attitude die in the pool the player rolled is used to calculate damage. These weapons use the lowest number rolled on their attitude die. Compare this number to the damage chart. If a character succeeds... Is there an attack matrix in this? Compare this number to the damage chart. If a character succeeds with an edge with this weapon, they choose to make a second attack against the same or a different adversary in range. Hand weapons of this type may be used with a shield. The up arrow. These weapons use the second highest number rolled on their attitude dice. Compare this number to the damage chart. Note that it is the second highest number. If the attitude dice rolled 9, 9, 6, and 3, the second highest number is 6. Handheld weapons of this type may be used with a shield. Double arrow up. These weapons use the highest number rolled on their attitude dice. Compare this to the damage chart. These weapons cannot be used with a shield. The damage chart on the character sheet indicates how many toughness are crossed off an adversary. Interesting. So is that ruin? Damage critical? Wait, what? Is that the damage chart? The damage chart. Okay. Oh, okay. Is it that? Strain, injury, critical. Oh, okay, okay. So if you roll a 10, if the attitude die used is a 10, a critical, cross off 3 toughness. Okay. 6 to 9 is an injury. You would cross off 2. 1 to 5, strain. You'd cross off 1. Cool. Armor and shields both reduce the likelihood of a character suffering harm, but they achieve this effect in different ways. Armor. If a character is wearing armor, they reduce the damage rating of any adversaries they are fighting by 1. Critical, then injury, then strain. Okay. So if you got a critical against a character that was wearing armor, that would knock it down to just the injury category. If a character suffers an injury or a critical before it is reduced, cross off 1 ruin on their armor. Ooh. Interesting. Wait, do I have armor? I feel like I did. Oh, dude, we didn't. Okay. Shield. If a character is using a shield, reduce the combat rating of an adversary they are fighting by 1. If a character suffers an injury or a critical, cross off 1 ruin on their shield. A character may elect to destroy their shield to ignore all the damage inflicted by 1 attack. Much of what remains of the city leers out of the drowned forest as a decrepit reminder of what once was, and what once could have been. A grand city it was, holding the potential for so much, burned and broken, pillaged and polluted by an unyielding hunger to capture and possess the transient and untamable power. Okay. Strain, injuries, criticals, and foundlings. When a character is hurt, they suffer strain and injuries. Strain is recorded by marking off the circles in the column next to the attitudes and enchant. Oh, these? Oh, yeah, okay. Let's move this over here. When a character suffers a strain, the player may elect to mark any unmarked strain circle. The strain circle next to enchant impacts all the enchant abilities. Oh, whoa, cool. I read ahead of here. Injuries are recorded by marking off the circles in the row above the dice columns. When a character suffers an injury, the player marks off the leftmost unmarked circle. Injuries are marked left to right. Criticals cause a character to suffer both a strain and an injury. If a character ever suffers strain and all their strain circles are marked, they suffer an injury instead. If a player ever marks off all their character's injury circles, the character is mortally wounded. See healing on page 29. If an attitude row has its strain circle marked, all the dice rolled for that attitude count as fire dice. So always with a hitch. Or if they tie, they lose, because fire dice lose all ties. If a dice column has an injury circle mark, the dice in this column are not added to any dice pool. Oh, brutal, dude. See, if you have 2 injuries, you're not adding... Whoa, yeah, okay. So if you have 2 injuries and I do a caution, I'm not rolling any focus die. I'm only rolling fire. If I have 3 injuries and I do a caution, I'm only rolling 1 fire instead of the 2 I would have if I just had 2 injuries. That's wild. Strain and injuries are not only inflicted as a result of combat, a GM may add one of these as a consequence for a failed action or a hitch. If your character rolls a hitch when trying to charm the crowd, they will gain a strain from the burden of so many eyes and ears focused on them. If your character fails their check for climbing as you described, they will be injured in a fall. Whenever such a consequence is present, the GM should inform the player before the player chooses to undertake the action. Values and turpitude. During character creation, each player recorded 4 values important to their character. These are not vague aspirations, or things the character likes the idea of. They are driving forces. They motivate and influence a character in their behavior. Values are not a tool to be used to bludgeon a character, but can be used to create moments in time when the character feels pulled in two directions. They can also provide some moral framework for the characters. Safety tools are vitally important. From a session 0, the X card, and more. These help define and shape a game experience that everyone playing can equally enjoy and engage with. In the examples given on page 14, the player of Talon has settled on their character's values, 2 of which are repeated below. What's over the hill? They are a curious explorer. Learn from the past, wants to repair the damage once done. What happens when Talon and the party need to return to resupply, but a curious path takes a hidden turn? Does Talon explore? Is Talon more likely to slay a corrupted creature or seek a way to heal it? If a character behaves in a way that is out of step with their values, the GM might warn them that such an action will earn turpitude. Every time a character earns turpitude, color in 1 heart. If all 6 are colored, draw a line through one of the character's values and erase the marks in the hearts, refreshing the track. If a character ever has a line through all 4 talents, or all 4 values, they lose their way. Ooh. If a character follows a value at risk to themselves or causing some significant complication, they may be rewarded with extra experience or may reset their turpitude track or uncross 1 crossed value. Cool. Healing. If the characters take a short rest, doing little more than eating and drinking for a good half hour to an hour, they may heal up to 2 strain. A longer rest, including a sleep of a few hours, will restore all strain. Injuries take time to heal. A longer rest, including sleep and a break between game sessions, will heal 1 injury. Using reason or caution to heal 1 injury is a difficulty 2 check plus 1 for every injury, including the first. It requires using 1 salvage tag such as strong or fitted. Whether the check is successful or not, the character being healed will suffer 2 strain, and this salvage counts as used. Using Sculpt to heal an injury uses the same difficulty as using Reason or Caution. It requires permission, which can be gained by Friendship, Charm, or Scry. Whether the check is successful or not, the character being healed will suffer 1 strain. Rolling an edge or a hitch with either of these checks might reduce or increase the amount of strain the character suffers by 1, respectively. These checks may be repeated to heal a second injury and so on. I like that. That's cool. You've got your rests and your short rests, but I like the checks with a little bit of a risk. Not even a risk, because you will suffer strain. That's cool. And strain is brutal. Having them all be fire dice, that is a cool mechanic. I like that. Mortally wounded. A character who is mortally wounded can continue to act using 1 focus die. If they are injured again and remain unhealed at the end of the game session, they will die. A character who loses their way can have 1 value uncrossed if someone uses the Call Enchant ability on them, with a difficulty of 4. If they end a game session with all 4 values crossed, they lose their sense of purpose and direction. As soon as they can, they will return to their settlement to live out their life, slowly healing their soul and learning again to live a considerate life. For all intents and purposes, a character who has lost their way is no longer run by one of the players. That rules. I like that. Generally, all the characters will earn the same amount of experience per session, which is typically recommended to be around 5 to 10. If a group would like to play a shorter campaign, they can increase this total to 10 to 15. Increasing attitudes and enchant abilities. Adding a focus die to an attitude or enchant ability costs the new number of focus die times 10. So to get our caution from 2 to 3, it would take us 30. Oh yeah, 20. Okay, cool. A player must pay for each focus die added individually. Going from 1 focus to 2 is 20. 2 times 10. Going from 1 focus die to 3 costs 50 because you have the 2 times 10 for 2, 20. 3 times 10, 30. 30 plus 20, 50. Buying abilities. Abilities cost the new number of abilities a character has. Wait. I feel like it should say new abilities cost the number of abilities a character has times 5. Characters can buy abilities related to any attitude. Cool. A player may repair one crossed value by spending 10 XP to replace it with a new value. This new value should relate to the character's experiences and adventures. This also resets the turpitude track. Whew! Gear, tags, and ruin. Let's see here. I think we're going to paraphrase some of this. Foundlings typically only own a few items of personal value, but it's more often the history of the item or how it reflects the foundling themselves that is valuable. More often than not, a foundling will make or barter for the things they need. After the ruination that destroyed the city, the desire to possess more than your neighbors or more than is needed is viewed with some level of distrust and cynicism. Cool. Seeing the settlement prosper is more valued. If a character wants a piece of gear, they might make it if they have the right salvage. They might have it made by someone in their settlement, or a neighbor if their settlement lacks a skill, in exchange for gear, salvage, of roughly equal rarity. Service, or a combination of these things. All gear wears down, and without upkeep will break and become little more than salvageable parts. This is a part and parcel of life. Most tools and items are pieced together from salvage gathered in the city and only made from scratch when the skills and resources are available and can't be put to better use. Gear in Foundlings is defined by 3 aspects: the name and function, tags, and ruin. Tags are words that represent characteristics of the thing they belong to. When a character finds salvage or wants to repair or make a new thing, they use tags to do so. Tags are things like sharp and flexible. They're an abstract way of thinking about the function of an item, rather than a discrete thing itself. For salvage, tags represent not so much what it is the character has discovered, but what use the thing they have discovered can be put to. Oh, I like that. Cool. A piece of gear is usually made up of between 2 and 3 tags. Some tags have additional rules. If a character is undertaking a non-combat action using a piece of equipment designed for the task they are undertaking and describes their action in such a way as to naturally reflect one or more of the tags on the item, the GM may offer a focus die. Cool. Ruin. Foundlings is a post-apocalyptic fantasy setting, and one of the key themes in many post-apocalyptic stories is the degraded nature of the world as it is. So gear is often kit-bashed, homemade, prone to wear and tear. Foundlings represent these themes with ruin. All gear will have a number of ruined circles, which are marked off when an item is damaged. If a piece of gear ever has all of its ruined circles marked, it is broken and can no longer be used. When an item breaks, the character may select one tag to keep as salvage, and record it in the salvage section of their character sheet. An item might accrue ruin as a part of its use. If you use rope to climb over the precipice, it will take a ruin. And of course, the player can decide whether that is a cost they are willing to pay. Ruin is most often the result of succeeding with a hitch. Ruin can also accrue through combat. Oh, okay. So if you succeed with a hitch, that'll usually apply a ruin. Cool. Armor. Oh, nice. I like this. Handheld, ranged, heavy, strong. It's got a nice little chart here of gear. I'm assuming this is just a couple of things. I'm assuming you could create your own. All Foundlings have a carry limit equal to 10, plus the number of focus die they have in power. Ooh. So 11. This is the number of items of gear and pieces of salvage the Foundling can comfortably carry. You can repair ruin using caution, power, reason, speed, or sculpt. A player adds a number of difficulty dice to the pool equal to the number of ruined circles that are checked. A player must spend a piece of salvage represented by a tag belonging to the piece of gear and roll their check. If successful, unmark all the ruin. Oh, cool. You do it all at once. An edge or a hitch will add or remove 1 ruin from the normal amount for that piece of gear. Okay, so a hitch would let you remove them all, then you just add 1 back, I'm assuming. Making things character may attempt to make a piece of gear. Doing so requires tools and the salvage tags that make a piece of gear. They can roll a check, just like a repair check, with the number of difficulty dice equal to the ruin number of that piece of gear. If the check is unsuccessful, the character loses 1 of the pieces of salvage. If the check is successful, they have made the piece of gear. Remove the salvage from the character sheet and add the item of gear. If the player rolled an edge or a hitch, add or remove 1 ruin from the normal amount for that piece of gear. So it looks like everything starts with specifically. So we can, with some ruin. So let's see. Hooked. Strong. And our grapple has 3 ruin. So 6 total. Gotcha. Lock picks, clever, intricate, tiny. And that starts with 2 ruin. Rope, flexible, long, strong. And that starts with 3 ruin. Ooh. Makes sense. Everything's like waterlogged. Tools. Clever, heavy, strong, 4 ruin. Awesome. Cool. A note on attitudes and abilities. Each attitude... Oh, wait, hold on. Did I look at this? Yeah, I did. Right. Repairing and making things takes time, at least 1 to 3 hours per point of ruin. Oh. But it is something the character might do during downtime, around the campfire, or between adventures, and can be completed over time. Each attitude speaks of a different approach, and this can be reflected in the end results. Using speed might cut the time down significantly, but the result could be losing a point or 2 of ruin. Using caution might take longer, but add a point of ruin. Do you want to add ruin? Oh, wait, are you erasing ruin? No. Why would you want to add? Using caution might take longer, but add a point of ruin? Do they mean, when they say could be losing a point or 2 of ruin, do they mean... Oh, okay. Caution might add. So maybe when they say lose a point of ruin, they're meaning like when you're using or making. I'm assuming that has to mean adding. And when you're going slower, you would add a point of ruin? That doesn't make any sense. This can be reflected in the end results. Using speed might cut the time down significantly, but the result could be losing a point or 2 of ruin. Which feels like a good thing, because the less ruin you have, the further away from the item being completely broken. So I'm assuming they meant the opposite there. Using sculpt might be easier with permission. The GM and players are encouraged to be creative in how the use of attitudes and abilities is reflected in their repairs and constructions. Salvage. In the drowned forest lies the city. For generations, it has been a source of salvage, a place to find the remnants of things degraded by time and repurpose them into useful items. Searching for salvage requires a caution, reason, scry, or call check, with the difficulty reflecting how picked over the area the character is searching has been, how open to the elements, and other similar factors. If the character finds salvage, roll 1d10 for the quantity. So 1 through 6 is a single piece, 7 through 9, 2 pieces, 10 plus 3 pieces. For each... Oh, I get common salvage? Wait, it was saying for us... Hello? Where was our 1 piece of each type of salvage? Is that literally, is this 1 piece? Or does it mean 1 rarity? Oh, 1 piece. Okay, hold on. We'll come back to that. For each piece of salvage, roll 1d10 for the rarity. Roll 1d10, 1 through 5, 1d10 on the common salvage, 6 through 9, 1d10 on the uncommon, 10 plus, roll a 1d10 on the rare. Alright, salvage that is kept is recorded on the character sheet. Each piece of salvage counts towards a character's carry limit. Tag rules apply. A GM might give the characters a +1 or +2 to either of these rolls for a highly successful search, or for searching a bounteous or unspoiled area. On the following pages are 4 tables: made tags, common salvage, uncommon salvage, and rare salvage. The first of these made tags are not things the character needs to find, and are not listed as salvage. They are tags the character automatically adds to the pieces of gear they are making as a part and parcel of the construction process. Some of these tags have rules. If a piece of gear has a tag with rules, the rules apply to that piece of gear. Okay. Okay, gotcha. Just 2 items when being carried. Oh, so if you're creating something, if you're creating a shield, you have to add, right? You would have to add large to it. Counts as 2 items when being carried. Automatically adds to the pieces of gear. To the piece of gear they are making as a part and parcel of the construction process. Okay. If a piece of gear has a tag with rules, the rules apply to that piece of gear. These rules are cumulative, and all of them apply to any piece of gear which has them. Cool. And comment a note on tags. Only a handful of tags have special rules, but a character can still gain a benefit from the tags on their gear by using the gear to reflect their purpose or action. My character is crawling carefully and cautiously forward behind the reeds, wrapped in their mottled cloak. Would my cloak's concealing tag help? Of course it would. Gain +1 focus die. Then we've got some adversaries. Adversaries are any of the people, creatures, or sprites the characters might encounter. Each adversary has a number of ratings. They provide the difficulty they represent when interacting with them. The GM should feel free to reduce or add to these ratings for a particularly positive or negative relationship, favorable or unfavorable circumstances, and so on. Instead of having the attitudes like the characters, adversaries are given ratings across a number of areas. Physical is to do with speed, power, being dexterous. Social is to do with bargaining, convincing, or intimidating. Mental is to do with noticing, knowing, and tricking. Combat, toughness, and damage are all related to combat. Adversaries also have special rules described by keywords. Some of these are linked to abilities, like the characters have. Others are triggered under specific circumstances, like a player interacting with them, rolling a hitch. Ooh. Oh, if multiple keywords are triggered at the same time, they are all applied. Cool. Then it goes through what some of the keywords are. Trader, scavenger. Oh, nice. Little bestiary. Oh, cool. I like that. We got some adversary keywords here. Brutal, corrupted, creature, culture, devious, magical. Trying to use an enchant ability on this adversary adds X difficulty die to the player's pool. This adversary adds the X difficulty die to any roll in which a character is trying to resist an enchantment. Ooh, okay. So I'm assuming the GM would decide X. Unyielding, wild, a note on keywords. Got a little bestiary, a built-in adventure, some character sheets, a map. I think we finished up this look through. But what I first want to do is add my salvage, and that is not where that goes. I put Keen Eye in salvage, and it needs to be in my abilities. Cool. So now, I think we will add the salvage. So we get one of each. So one common, one uncommon, and one rare. So we're gonna roll. We're gonna roll a D10 for each of these. For the common, that's a 10. Sustaining. So common, sustaining. Let's see. Let's do one uncommon, a 2 concealing. Okay, last one on the rare. Another 10, spry. Interesting. All right, I think we finished up our character creation. Pretty much did a whole damn read through. I hope that's okay. I don't think I've seen a single YouTube video about this game. So I'm glad to have done a flip through. Yeah, check your FLGSs for Foundlings. It seems cool as fuck. I mean, I'll probably end up having to play it solo. Just, hard to get groups into new things. But yeah, it seems cool. That's on the list. So is Yokai Hunters Society for upcoming solos. Working on the OD&D one right now, so that's kind of taking priority. But I'm glad we have created Win, our citizen of Flagstone, our scavenger. And I'm glad that Flagstone is surrounded by Timber Cove, our friendly buddies, and Hardshell, our hostile survivalists. Anyways, this video has gone on long enough. So thanks for watching, and check out Foundlings, and if you do, or if you already have, let me know what you think. If you've already played, definitely let me know what you thought. But I appreciate y'all watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.